Hey guys, in this tutorial I am going to kind of show you, there's a million ways to do this, but I've kind of have come to the conclusion that this seems to work best for me in most of situations. So there's a lot of times you can use a content aware, you can use your little lasso, and I just you're never gonna get the cleanest lines that way. So this is the way I like to do it, and it kind of, you'll get a believable kind of look into it. So the proper way I would cut out a subject or an object or whatever. I chose this guy here just because I grabbed him really quick. It should be a nice, clean, easy cutout. We're not doing hair. That's in a separate tutorial. So let's see here. Ultimately, you're going to end up with a guy that's cut out like that. So you can drop in any background, and it'll look believable. So let's get started. So basically what you're going to do first is we're using the pen tool. The pen tool is my favorite tool to do this. I like to zoom in. Sure, Adam's not going to enjoy me using his image like this, but bummer. Okay, when you first start, the edge here, anytime you try to go right on that line, you are going to get some haloing, or you'll never get the right look, because part of this background will always end up seeping through. It's just too hard, and plus trying to get all these little hairs here, that's impossible. So you will get some of the background. So what I like to do is go just inside the line here, so that way you can kind of manage it a little bit better. So I would start somewhere like right about here, and as you use the pen tool, here's the secret with the pen tool. I'm using a Mac, so just convert it if it's on PC. These little ridges right here, you don't have to be exact, but you sure don't want to just go straight, because that's not going to look good. So I mean, yeah, you could go here and we could like do that, but see everything that's getting cut off? So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to just kind of go along the line in short little bursts, but pull it, and when you pull it and move while you're holding down with the mouse, you can control the curve. So we know that this is going to go out like this a little bit. And again, you don't have to be exact on here. Normally I would do this, it depends on how high the paying the gig is, but if they want it exact, they'll get it exact. But I'm going to go through here really quick and kind of like, if you pull down too much on these little knobs here, you can hold down the Alt key and it changes to that little arrow. See it changing to the arrow? You can then pull this arrow, and now whatever direction you need to go next, it'll make a smooth transition for you. So there's that. Or you can just pull it small so that when you go over here, it's going to come out a little bit smooth. So anyways, what we do is we'll just go right on the inside here. I'm assuming everybody has used the pen tool. If not, it's just it's going to keep making lines every time you press down on the mouse. If I just press down and I don't hold, it's just going to make a straight line. That's not what we want. So you're always going to hold, so that way when you move left and right, up and down, it does certain things with the curve, and you can match that curve up with your subject or whatever you're cutting out. So to continue along through here, I'll just kind of do this really, really quick. You don't have to be exact. You just have to make it look like it's a natural element or curve. So let's just go through. And again, I'm just going to do this kind of quick, so you guys can take a little bit more time if you'd like, but I'm just kind of pulling right along that edge, continuing on the inside, because I don't want to get any haloing on there. If there's some areas that you don't like, then just kind of trim those off. It's this is your call. It's just got to look believable. And that little bump right there, you'd pull it out. Now this is going the wrong way, so it's going to create a swoop if I was to click right there. So what I do is I hold down my Alt key, grab the end of it, and put it back the way I need to go. And if I want to pull it out here, because I know that that's going to be a long line, then that's fine too. So that's what I'll do. And now, when you have a curve like this, you want to zoom out a little bit. much, but this is where you have a little bit more control over it. It's not as wavy in this area. It is more of a smooth line, so you just have to not do straights. So in other words, I'd go like right about here, pull it out, just staying on the inside. About here, we'll pull it out, staying on the inside. And see on my line, this line, once I pulled it out, I knew that I wanted it to continue with that curve, so I just lined it up with it. So I'll click right here, and you can see that that's a straight line, but if I bend it, it's going to curve. So I just want to keep moving up and down until that looks just about right, and this tip is not really wonky out of an area. If it is, that's when you just hold down that Alt key and move it to where you need it. So let's just go like this. We'll keep going around. This is kind of a smooth area. You just don't want it to look too perfect because it's not perfect. So let's go ahead and get it down in here. Alright, now we're coming up to an area where I like to zoom in because it's starting to change. So obviously the closer you get, I like to go right before it goes to that grid. I'm not a big fan of that grid unless I'm doing like motorcycle spokes or some crazy thing. Okay, so we're going to continue this off, and you're really not worried about where this is going now because you're going to stop it. So you just are worried about the trailing line to connect where you were. You want that to be right about there. Alright, and then I'm going to hold down Alt and just click on the dot. I'm not going to click here when I was holding Alt. You can click on the dot. That ends your line. So now you can go wherever, whatever direction you want. That's a hard stop, and I want this curve now to happen. So I know I don't want to go past there, so I'll just kind of bring that curve up like that. Now we'll follow this along, and it's not perfect. There's some dips, so let's make those dips. You know, this little thing right here, I'd probably not even have that in there because I don't want that weird highlight. So we'll make it dippy right there. Comes up, and then it looks like it's going to go right to about there. And you see I came in a little bit because I know I'm still cutting not exactly on that line. I don't want to be exactly on that line. If you guys, if you're on that line, what's going to happen is you are going to get some haloing, or you're going to get those really weird cutouts where you just look at it and you go, man, that's photoshopped. So we're not trying to do that. See, that's a little bit too close right there. So I want to stay on the inside just a little bit. There we go. It's dipping down. We're bringing out with it. By the way, believe it or not, my magic mouse was not charged for this when I decided to do it. So I'm literally doing this on my laptop with the little pad. Yeah. Not preferred, but you know, sometimes you have to learn to be able to use the tools that you have available. So, and you know, right in through here, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, like I said. We're just getting like these areas. You know, that's going to be rigidy. It's going to look really roughly. Alright, now it's starting to smooth out a little bit, so just keep it going. I would speed this up, but I don't know, I might do that. So if you hear me talking right now, it's not going to speed up. I would have done it by now, but anyways, now you're getting these little, you want that to be rounded because that's obviously showing some of the pad that's in that elastic right there. So I didn't like that one, so we'll do it again. And anytime, I'm assuming everyone knows this, but if there's someone out there that doesn't, at any time you make a mistake, simply hit Command Z on your keyboard and you can go back. Or you can go up here to File Undo, but that's kind of Photoshop 4.0. Alright, so we're getting around this hat here. And you know, you can see that when you do this, you're in a zoom to the point where, you know, you're not seeing the whole. You're just seeing bits and pieces of what you're cutting out, which to me is if I know I'm cutting out a chair and I've just got the chair, sometimes I find myself cutting corners and just not really following it. I know it's a chair. I know those legs are going to go down and they're going to kind of be straight, so I'll just make all these straight lines. But the truth is there might be chips in the wood or there might be some imperfections, and when you actually take the time to cut those out, man, that's what really makes the difference. So there's a lot of these little programs out there, and even Photoshop's starting to put them in, where content aware, and it's doing this thing kind of like the magic wand. And the magic wand is great for certain things. Really, it's great for when you're doing, to be honest with you, like a web design or a flyer where you're just using solid colors, not people and shapes that have hundreds of thousands of colors in them. But that's just my opinion. Anyways, back to this. We're not, these little highlights and stuff like this, not necessarily concerned with it. You don't have to have them. As a matter of fact, sometimes when it's white like this, depending on the background you put him in, that might look a little bit funny. It might look a little odd, so I'm just not going to use that part. So I'm going to make it look like it dips down right there. Then dips back up, and I'm just going to follow along this dark line. I don't want that white line. Now, if you wanted that white line, if you did, for some reason, if you're going to put them on white and you think that's a better fade, by all means, here I'll go back and we will keep the white line. But I would not keep it here. I would kind of come out right there, and then that'll start to fade. And now still, again, I'm not going to go to the background. I'm just going to go on that white line. But again, this is one of those areas where I'd probably do it this way first, and if I didn't like the way it was fitting in my background, then I'd just go back in later and trim it out. This is kind of going to get lost in your cutout, but once we get down to where I'm going to actually make the selection here, I'm going to actually do the cutout. I'll show you how, if this was just a straight cutout, and we just cut him out with this pen tool, I mean, it's razor sharp edges. So, and that's not a razor sharp edge, and it never will be. So, getting that matched up in the actual final composite, there's a small little trick when you're actually finished making this that really kind of helps that out a little bit. So I'm trying to go fast here, guys. You can take more time if you want. Again, this is just for your instructional purposes. So here we're going to get, that's pretty smooth, so we can go ahead and finish that off like that. That's fine. Hairs like this, don't worry about those. 9 times out of 10, I've never had one issue where that became an issue, because you are going to probably be dodging and burning, highlighting, stuff like that. However, these little arm hairs like this, that might be something that you want to keep. So this is going to be an area that's, to me, as I'm cutting this out, I would look at that and go, okay, I need to think about that before I actually use the pen tool here, because I know that there might be some other option, and I'm going to show you what that is later. So what I would do is I would just come down to about where it starts, and then I would just give myself all this room. I know I don't need that big old hair. Yeah, and then we'll come around here, and I'll just keep that like that, because there's going to be a trick that I'm going to show you later, that just kind of, if you wanted to keep those hairs, what it what it does. And we'll come back down in here, and it's not going to be as hairy there. So we're going to cut that there, and okay, we're making progress. Then I will go right inside the line. No one's going to see those little faint hairs back there. Now I don't want this to look too, too straight, so I'm doing little short bursts like this, because you have a bunch of wrinkles and little dips and just crazy things. So the less perfect of a line that you use here, the better this thing is going to look. Again, not going like that to the edge. I'm staying right inside. Now we're going to get to the nail, and you see that this is a curve that has a little arch to it. So what I want to do is I'm going to click, pull, I'm going to match that little arch, And I'm going to hold down on the Alt key and just press on the center point there. That takes away my next move so I can do whatever I want. Now, if you prefer the other way, you can simply take this right here, hold down Alt, and move this to the way that you want to go. I use both. It just depends on what I'm doing. So I would say that that's pretty good. A little close to the edge there, so let's go inside. This might be a troublesome area just because where that transition is, so you might have to like feather that out later. But those are just all things that later on in the game you can easily do. Excuse me. So now, this little area here, it's not a hard point. It's kind of got a little bloop edge that kind of goes like that if you looked at it close enough. So if you were just to cut and start, it would make a V. It would look like two edges of wood meeting, and that's not what we want there. And you see I'm still on the inside here. I'm going to cut off a little bit of his thumb. So let's back this up. Let's go smaller burst to get that little bitty curve. And now, yeah, see my line is following that much, much better. Yeah, much better. Okay, so in this area, you're going to stop just before the point that you want to cut off, and then you're going to go just before right there. So all you have is that little arch. Let me zoom in a little bit more so you can kind of see. Mr. Grid comes up. See that little arch right there? So we're just going to go like this and pull up and kind of just get in that little arch right there. Okay? Let's click here to get rid of that so we can decide what we want to do when we zoom back out. So let's zoom back out. I like to go right when the little grid disappears. That seems to be a workable area for me when it's in detailed. And again, I'm taking a lot of time to, really go around every nook and cranny of this. You may not want to be so detailed. You may want to just go straighter. So if that's the case, then you just, just do bigger lines and keep a smooth flow going like this. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to show you. Here I'm just going, I'm not going to follow all these little dips. I'm just going to follow one to where I don't get any black in it. And we'll go down, and then we'll come up, and then we'll go down. And we'll go down a little bit. That's a cool little trick right there. So that just made the arch that went this way, and then this way, and then this way, like a snake. But all I did was go pull and pull, because it's automatically dipping down because you did this one. So now when you put this one up here and do the same thing, it follows those curves. And we'll come through here. Alright, we're getting to another transition. Now this transition is the same thing as the other one. I won't zoom in, but I'll do the same kind of principle. And now pants, I like to zoom out just a little bit more because they're not as intricate. See, it's more smoothie lines that just kind of start going like this. So we'll just start doing those. And again, does not have to be perfect. I probably would take a little bit more time than I am now if I was doing this, but I'm just doing this just to speed this up a little bit, because this would take, And that's another thing. When you're figuring this out and you're doing composites, I don't know if you charge for it or not, but if you do, that's something I'm always thinking about. Is it a family of 4? Am I doing a family composite? And they're all around the swimming pool and everybody's doing something different. Dad's barbecuing, the kids are jumping and splashing, Am I making one of those? And if so, how many people are in it? Because every person, when you cut out one, and you'll get faster, you will. But every time you do one person, if there's 5 people in the comp, I charge, for 5 people, because you're doing it 5 times. And that's where a lot of guys make a mistake. They just look at it as a lump sum. Nobody's going to pay more than X amount of dollars for this image anyway. And that's absolutely not true. If I went to Walmart and I said, look, I only have $300, but I need all 3 of those TVs because I have 3 rooms, it's well, too bad. You have to pay for all. And I think that's where a lot of guys kind of make the mistake when they're charging for this stuff. But anyways, that's just a little tip to where, if this guy took me an hour to cut out, when I'm doing the composite, I'm charging in, at least that many hours for whatever, however many people. Now, if it's like little objects, like, you know, and it's to be honest, a car is really easy, and you know, things like that that don't have like spokes and just solid objects, and those are the easiest. And okay, so when I come down to the edge here, I just want to go off the screen a little bit because there's nothing there, but we just want to kind of come back up here and get close to where we're going to be coming back in. And I know that that's a curve that's going to be going like this, so I'm going to go over here and curve it in. Now that set me up for this next curve where all I have to do is, you know, this looks like it would go smoothly like that, right? So if I click right about here, this will make a straight line, and then I just pull. So that worked. Now this is coming in like this, but you know, if you experiment, right about there is where it wants to come up. So you can see that went right through here and right through. All it did was cut off that little bitty area. So you know, you can kind of cut corners on pants like this because they're not as noticed. And then here's his keys. Now this will be noticed. So we want to go like this. Hold down Alt. I'm pulling around that little edge. I like that curve, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it. This looks like it's pretty straight up to about right here. Then it looks like it's got a little angle. Looks like this comes in about right here. This is where something like this, remember we're trying to go inside of it, and you can see I am still going inside of it, but right here is going to be really tricky. You're going to have to zoom in to get right on this little edge. And just keep it in short little bursts and pulls until you get it just about right. Now see, I don't know what's happening right here, what's what, so I got to zoom back out. Alright, and we will go ahead and, looks like right about there. This has a little arch to it, so we'll just kind of bring it up like this, bring it up like this. That looks like a clip, so I'm going to have to go in a little bit more. And depending on how you're placing this guy, you know, maybe, see that came in and then up and then out. It looks like it goes out again. Depending on where you're placing this guy, you know, you may not need to be this detailed. He could be really small in your composite. And if he is, then obviously you wouldn't need to be this detailed. But I will tell you this. When you are this detailed, no matter where you put him, no matter how big he is, no matter how small he is, no matter where he is, he's going to be absolutely perfect because it will fit seamlessly into whatever you're trying to get him into, because you will have every little edge perfectly cut out and everything will look believable. I have actually ran into times when, you know, that actually saved me when I actually took the time to do it, because they actually wanted him to become the main subject, so he was bigger. And had I not taken the time, then I would have had to redo the whole entire cutout. You don't want to do that because you can't charge the person twice. Now, I didn't like that curve there, so I'm going to show you another little way I like to do this. I like to get it so I'm just looking at the circle, which is here, right? And it comes down through here, and it comes up through here. It's obviously not perfect because this is at an angle, so we'll just try to get close, and I kind of like to try to go halfway. If I can't go halfway, I just go as close as I can, and we'll try to match just that first part. That's all I'm worried about. It just so happens that this looks good. It's still continuing the curve like that. However, if I put it way over here, I'm not going to get the right curve. See, it's gonna get a flat spot right in the middle. So I wouldn't go that far. I would just experiment, and you can just hit Alt-Z and go back. And do this as many times as you want. That looks good to me. And then it looks like it kind of comes in right about here. So that looked pretty good. I will leave that. Okay. These little furry things. You know, something like this is his shirt. We are zoomed in at 1200%. No matter where you use this, even if it's printed on the side of a billboard, that's never going to be noticeable. Especially with the little trick that I'm going to show you at the very end to make this not a hard edge. So let's just go right around him like this. It doesn't matter. We're just going quick. And right about there. Okay, so here, this is a nice flow, so I'm going to kind of make bigger strokes to make that a little bit more smooth. And that set me up perfect for that. We'll come in here like this. And looks like I can zoom out a little bit. That way you can get a little bit more area. Come up. And then right here it kind of dips in, but then pulls out. That'll match that curve exactly. See what I did there? I went in and then I went out on that, so it matched. It just made a perfect little S right there. Let me show you how I did that one more time. That's a cool little thing. So I'm here, and I know that this is going to dip in. It's going to go up and then up, but this is a really smooth S, and if I did it any other way, it's going to look fake. So I'm cutting this part off. That's why I've come in right here. I just want this to look like it comes in as shadow. And then I want to go where this comes out and ends. I know I can make that as a perfect part, but if I click right there, I'm stuck in the middle of the transition. So I actually want to go a little bit. I want to pull farther than the transition. So had I just clicked, like if I would have done this normally and like I was telling you small bursts, you can do it that way too. I would have gone like this, then I would have gone like this, and you can get it that way too, but you don't always get it perfect. So you'll be amazed at this pen tool if you just kind of work with it. Like, see, that's matching that curve perfectly. And it looks like now this is going way in here, right? Well, it's only the farthest point of the curve is going to try to go to there. So the farther you pull it away, the less it's going to go this way, if that makes sense. So if I put this right here now, see I'm coming in. If I put this here, then that should bring this out, and that should follow right about there. I'll pull it up a little bit to match that curve coming around. See how that, here it is right here. We're coming around, there it is, there it is, and there it is. So that's just a quick way, you know, shoelaces especially, oh, don't get me started on shoelaces. That is an absolute, that's a pain. It's got to be done, but there's no easy way to do it. You're in there like this with the pen tool. But I'll tell you what, when you do that and somebody sees the image, believe me, people look for that. I've had friends, when I was first doing this, look at me and say, dude, you totally forgot, like, and it was like the inside of a shoelace or something. It was like, oh my God, because I was so excited about just getting him cut out and he looked believable. And so really taking your time around these images. What is that in the background right here? What is, okay, that's nothing I need. Okay, good. So I could probably stay out here like this, zoomed out now. Let me just get that out of there. It looks like he's pretty straight right there. We're still just, every time I click on this, I pull and I follow where I want to go. And that'll keep it kind of a, you know, not a perfect line, which that's not what this is. That's not what we want. And go inside. About there. No one's going to see that stitch line, so we'll just go right past it. Come up here. We're almost there, guys. Trust me, it's worth it when you do it this way, and you'll see. And this area right here obviously is going to be troublesome. That's going to be another one of those hair areas that I will show, but we'll probably go into more detail on something like that. There's a bunch of different ways to do that hair thing. There's the really intense way where you really take your time, and time is what it will be, where you really get it. And then there's what I'm going to show you here. So I know that I'm probably not going to save every one of these little, you know, fringes, but I do want it to look fringy, because if I don't, then it's not going to look believable. So I just went around that like I did the arm over on the other side, because I know I want it. I want to do something with it, so I can't cut it off just yet. So we'll just leave it in there, and we are almost there, guys. And we will make that connection. So right there, I don't know, this is for people that go like this. Do it again. If you don't know, once we get to the end of a pen tool and we've gone around and we're going to make the connection with where we've started, notice my icon, my little clip, my mouse pointer here. It's a pen. And you'll notice when I move it over this, a little circle appears next to the pen at the bottom right hand corner of that pen. Do you see it? It's kind of hard to see, but you can see it. That means we're going to close the gap when we click. So I just closed this and I made this whole entire thing a path. It goes around him. And you can see how we did that. Now, alright guys, so I said there was a secret. Here's the secret. Normally if you would do this, let me turn this layer off because we're just working with the background. As a matter of fact, let me get rid of it because that was my cutout originally. Well, I'll save it because I want to try to show you something later. Anyways, we're working on the background. Now what I like to do, let's pretend, actually, you know what, I will get this. We don't need to see this. We don't need to see this layer. Alright, so all we have is our background. First thing I do is I like to make sure that my my background stays where it is. In case I make a mistake, I can always go back to it, right? Here's another little trick. Now I don't need that background because now I'm working with this, but if something was to happen and I accidentally decided, well, I don't need that, and then later I did, I have the original file that I can go back and get it from, and that's what's super important here, is always saving your original. You'll never use it, but just save it, and you might use it, you know what I mean? That there might be that time. So here we are, we've got our selection, and what we're going to do is we're going to go right here where this little tab says Paths. We are going to click Path, and you can see that that's our work path. Right now that's what this outline is. That's our work path. I can't see this, so there we go. Give myself some room. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we've clicked on Paths, now we've clicked on that work path. We're going to go to this little icon here, which is the menu for any of these that you are actually on. This is the menu for it. And what you're going to do is you want to make a selection. Now, you might have done this a bunch of times, and you might have seen this little radius here. Normally it's at 0. When it's at 0, that means you're getting no help from it. It is literally going to follow your line like a razor blade. So that's how these things are coming out where they look fake, is they're really, really sharp on the edges, where you saw when we were zoomed in, it's not a sharp image at all. And you need to match that to make it look real in your image. So what we do is, on this feather radius right here, my favorite radiuses are from 0.4 to 0.7. Those seem to be, no matter where I put my subject, those seem to be the most believable. The higher you go in the number, the more it's going to feather it. And when I say feather it, on the edge here, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to make it kind of blur off and fade off a little bit, to just like the real image did. So on this one, let's try a 0.5. Let's see what that does. We'll leave anti-aliased on. You leave new selection, that's fine. We hit OK. Now that just made a selection, right? So if this is, you've made your pen now a workable selection that you can do whatever you want with. If you were on the selection tool, you can move that selection. If you're on this, you can actually move the guy. It's going to cut him out now, right? See how that did that? But that's not what we want to do. What we want to do now is we want to go back to layers, and I'm going to show you something that I like to call non-destructive. And what that did is, see how that's just in the inside? That's why we cut it on the inside, because we're going to make that, the fade that we cut off is what we're going to replicate with our new cutoff. And that's super important, because if that was a hard edge, it would never look right. So what we are going to do is we're going to just go ahead, and you've made your selection. We're going to delete the background now. So what we want to do is we just want to, if that happens, if you hit delete, like I just did, and it accidentally cuts him out, just hit Command Z, because that's not what we wanted to do. That just means that we need to invert the selection, because it's selecting the guy to be cut out, and we want the background around the guy to be cut out. So we hold down Shift, Command, and I. See how that went to a different block once I did that? Let me do that one more time. See how now the block is showing that you're just cut out around him, but when I go Shift Command I, now it just selected the background and him too. So now we're just selecting here. We're not selecting anything in here. None of him. So it's basically it's just following that whole entire area right there that's going to go bye-bye. So now we can hit the delete key. And that deleted it, but it kept a soft background. And remember, this is that whole area that I said I was going to keep and decide, and this is that area that I said I was going to keep and decide. Everything else looks pretty clean. So what I like to do is I like to say, you know, this is probably going to be on some kind of a sky background or something, so let's just get like some kind of a bluey something in here, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Darker is better. If you're putting it on a white background, we can do that too. Let's go ahead and try that. Let's put it on a white background. And we'll go ahead. Ooh, let me do that again. So our selection, I can actually see it. We've still got our dotted line. So after you've done all this, what you want to do is you want to hit Command D, and that's just going to take away the deselect. That's going to deselect your selection. So now you're good to go, and you don't have anything selected. So what we're going to do is we made a new layer. Let me do this again. So we're going to make a new layer underneath him, clicking right here on your new layer. That just made a new layer underneath him. I've chosen white in my colors here. Hit OK. I'm going to go to my paint bucket tool right here, and I'm just going to click because I'm just filling in this layer. I'm not touching him. So see, that filled in white behind him. And now keep in mind, without looking at this and without looking at this little area here, for the most part, it's a pretty good cutout. See how it feathered that edge right there? And it doesn't look like just a razor cutout. That actually looks like the edge of his shirt is so nice and just feathered out. That's what we were looking for. And that's how you make, that's the secret, guys, to making it look believable in the comp and not like some kind of a fake cutout. So, you know, that's pretty much how that's done. This area here, I am going to go over tutorials on hair, but you know, for something like this, if I knew that this was going to be in shadow and I was going to do some dodge and burn or something like that, you know, I might just come in here with my eraser, zoom way in, and just and not worry about the hairs, but just kind of worry about as much of the volume of the hair I can get. I'm going to use a soft brush, so I'm going to want it to be, you know, zero hardness. And I am going to make sure I'm clicked on the person's layer. And I could just erase, right? Well, I don't want to do that. What I've just shown you is like the destructive way. I've deleted and I've shown you all this way. This is what's called destructive. I can't go back now. So that's why I saved my original if I needed to. So let me go back. I want to show you, the intent was to show you non-destructive. So you're going to get a bonus here. We could just keep going, but you're going to get a bonus. Here's another way to do this. I'm going to keep hitting Command-Alt-Z until I get, there's my selection. Go again. That's right before I cut him out. I saw it because I can see here on this little preview that I haven't cut him out yet. I can see that it's still selecting the background. Instead of actually hitting the delete key, you can simply come down here and create a new mask, which is this right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to add this little box. Adding this little box has created that cutout for you, but it hasn't done anything to your image. It's leaving it to you. So you'll notice here you got black and white. If you hit X on the keyboard, that swaps those for whichever one you're using. When you use black, you're always going to use a paintbrush when you're using a mask. And what we're doing is we're clicking on that mask. So we're clicking here on this little object, not this and not the whole layer. You need to click on this little box. That's making sure that you're selected. When I paint with black, it'll keep everything. So we want to take away. Use white with a paintbrush. If you notice, oops, sorry. When I start, well, let me get this right. I've done 3 things wrong here. Okay, let's try this one more time. All right, so we've got our selection. We don't want to destroy it. So we're going to go down here and we're going to click mask. That actually created, it masked out my guy. I want the opposite of that. So I'm going to hit Shift Command I. I just want my guy. This is not what we're deleting it. So I just want my guy, right? We're going to mask him out. See how that automatically took out my background? Because I just added a quick mask. So anything that I had selected was going to get removed. Now, if you remove too much, this is the best part about a mask, guys. When you paint with white, you'll notice it's going to come back in. Let's see here, got my hardness, let's put my opacity at 100. I'm just painting on this little thing right here with white and my paintbrush. You'll notice how the background's coming back. See that? And if you don't want it, then we just paint with black. Black takes it away, white adds it. So that's two ways that you can do it without destroying it. Now for the hair. Since we're on the mask, let's go ahead and paint some of this out. I like to use about a half hardness brush on this. You know, ooh, that was a good click. So 50%, and we are on our paintbrush. We are going to paint with black because we want to take it away. We'll make our brush smaller. And the way I'm making my brush smaller is I'm using the bracket keys. You can also just go up to the brush and make it smaller here using the size. So I want to brush about that big. Just get the edge right on where you want to be. And we can just start a little bit. It's going to keep some of that black. That's fine. We're going to get rid of it. Don't want to go all the way down. We're going to do that in a second. Okay, now I will keep most of that, most of that, most of that, most of that, and we'll come up like that. None of this hair here was absolutely going to be noticed, so this is just a quick way to do it. Again, guys, I've got tutorials where I will show you how we replace that hair. I'll show you a quick way right now. So that's all I really wanted to do, is make it so it kind of had a little bit of blur on it, but not a lot. It just kind of fades off. When I zoom out here, we'll see where we are. You just want to kind of keep coming out like this. You're not taking out all of it, but you're just kind of forming it yourself the way you want this formed. That looks good. That might be a little bit much. Let's take it off there. Alright. I know you're thinking this is not looking right. We're not done. I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. Let's bring that guy in like that. Like that. We'll get rid of a little bit more there. Alright. Let's see what we've got. Let's back up. So he's got this hard edge on him, and you know that already, I mean, it looks better than it was, but it's still not absolutely believable. So I would probably take a little bit more off like here by painting with black. And we'll just keep it like that. And smooth transition. We'll go like this. Okay, and that's how I keep that. And then for this little area over here, alright, so this area here, I'd probably end up keeping this one, and a lot of this one would go away, and I'd keep most of this and maybe a little bit of that, just so it looked fringe and it looked believable, because it is coming out. So here's a cool little thing, and I will actually, at the end of this video, I will leave the link to where you can actually download these. But they're just hairbrushes that you can find anywhere on the internet, and you get all different kinds of hairbrushes. So let's see, here we go. All these different hairbrushes, right? This kind of looks like hair, so what we want to do is we want to get one that kind of looks, that one looks really weird. And we want to again click on our layer mask so we can actually paint. We want to get a good brush size. I'll go down to where it looks, you know, I'm kind of like in that area there. But obviously it's not the right side. It's not the right, it's not pointing the right way. So up here, we can just grab these little areas, this little round circle or this little round circle, and we can just move it forward and backwards. Or you can grab this and move it around, and that's what we want. We want to move it around. So see how I'm moving it and it's changing the direction. So we'll work on this little first one first. Right here. Right, so that's still a little too big of a brush, so we're going like this. Let's zoom in so we can see it, guys. Okay. We are going to paint. We're on our mask right here. We grab our brush. We'll do opacity at 100 and just see what happens at first. And I just want to kind of, I'm just using the edge of this brush to kind of come right in there, and you know that didn't work, so we need to turn it a little bit more. And I just want to kind of get in there and click a couple times, click a couple times, and just make that look really jaggy right there, you know? And then let's do the same thing up here, because it's almost the same angle. Make that look really jaggy right there. Right? And let's make a smaller brush. And let's just do that same thing right here. Alright, now we've got all this other stuff, which is fine, because we are actually going to come in now and just grab a regular brush, and about 50% I think, and I'm just going to clean up all of this other stuff that I know I don't want, right? So I'm just painting with black, and I'm painting it away, and I don't want that. Let's come right out like that. And for this, it's going to be hard to see, so I'm going to put a new layer and fill it with that blue again so that I can actually see what I'm doing. And again, I'm painting on black. I got to go back and click on my layer mask because that's what I'm painting on. And we're just going to come in and kind of just follow this right around like this. That guy. I need that. Any of this little black area you're just trying to get rid of right now. And you don't want to get too far into it. Now all of this, you know you want to go, so let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Don't go too close because we're going to do something here. We're just kind of cleaning it up. And you just kind of like feel it out as you go. I know I want that to go up to a little more point. You got to get rid of that black, so we're going to get that smaller. Just get right in there. Follow that little line. Just get the black away from him so he looks real. And guys, nobody's ever going to look, I mean, rare people are going to get this close to it. So if I wanted this little area right here, this top one, to streak out a little bit more, you know, you can do that, but I think it's, you know, if you just make it look believable, that looks like a believable little piece. It didn't need to be all the way out here. So that's just kind of what you want to go for, is believable. It doesn't have to be that exact strand. It just has to be a believable strand. And that's what we're doing here. And this is going to come right around on that line. We're not going to get any of the black in there. That's what's going to be a giveaway that this is fake. Alright, come out of here. That's fine. Let's go down to a little point right there more. Maybe just feather that like that. So it looks more, you know, to my eye, looked right after we removed so much from it. Okay, it's looking good, man. Just do that like that. And a bit of black here that I see I didn't like. That looks good. This area right here doesn't look right, so we're going to make that come up to a little point. Down like that. Okay, now because this is a white, we're going to go back to that same brush. But what we're going to do is we're going to make another layer underneath. It's going to leave it normal. Let's go ahead and use our eyedropper tool. Let's click back up here on the background copy. You want to click on your actual image now, because we're going to sample like that off-white right there. Just something like in the midtones on that image. Now we're going to go back down to our layer that we just made, underneath of it. Go to our paintbrush. Let's go back to that brush that we had, like this, right? And now let's turn it, so now we're going to paint. So now we want it to match as much as we can, the angle. And see, that looks like that's the angle. I want to get it bigger, so that I'm going to go behind my person because we're not going to see that. And I'm not worried about the part that's going to hang out like crooked. I just want something right there. See, and that's all I wanted for that one little part. And that's a little too, it's not dark enough. So I'm going to pick a little bit darker color. And yeah, that looks good. However, I don't like this one. So we'll grab the eraser and put it on 100, and we'll just get rid of him. Remember, you don't have to be perfect here because it's behind him. But see, that just added a little dimension on that. And now I'll do that down here as well. Well, maybe just that. And then maybe I want to add another one like right there. You know, maybe I want to add another one like right there because that's what I want to do. And maybe I wanted it like that. So let's do that. Let's just make it hairier than it actually was. But you can see where now that's you know, give and take that's maybe a little still too light, and if it is, since they're all in one layer, you can simply just go up to your file menu and click on image. You can go adjustments, and we'll go levels, and now we can just grab this guy right here, and we should be able to darken or lighten those to kind of match what we want. And I'll go like right about there. That looks good. Okay, so we've got that. We've cut everything else out. Man, this guy looks good now, right? So, depending on what you're going to, put him in the background, the reason that I didn't use the pen tool here is because sometimes you'll keep some of that hair because it's a light background and it fades better. This happened, I chose a dark background because he had a shadow and it faded better. If this was on black, it would look even better. I think. Let's see. Let's put it on black. See? Much better. See, nobody's going to notice that there's no hairs there. That's not, and because you didn't use a hard edge, it looks believable. See what I'm saying? If you wanted hairs there, you could find, they have hair brushes that are really, really fine. There's a little grass tool that you can use, and you can do the technique that I just showed you for this little part here. And it actually works, guys. It makes it look believable. So let's see. Here's our original with the background. And here's our guy after we cut him out. I think we did a pretty good job. I think it looks good. So that's how I properly cut something out. Because if I was going to, you know what, let me just do that really quick. I'm going to go to the internet really quick. Let's just go scenic background. And let's just see, and let's go to images. Alright, let's put this guy in this one. This looks like about the same kind of like day or sun that would be hitting him, something close. And let's just drop him. Let's drag that in. Click OK, because it don't matter if it's matching the RGB. Now, I'm using a high-res image, guys, so that's not going to come in very well. What you'd want to do is bring that in, open this image, and then bring your guy into that image and scale him down. I'm just going to do it to show you that, when you have stuff in the background, it still will blend. It's just going to be just fine. And this is actually going to be blurrier than it should because we were actually bringing this guy up and losing resolution on it every time that we do it. So we'll hit apply. And you can see that he actually, with a little bit of work, we can get this to where him and the background match. A few adjustment layers, some dodging and burning, and this guy's good to go. But if you want to look next to the edges here, see how that's a much more believable edge than if you just did it straight. If you just did it straight, it's going to look fake. And this is a little bit more blurry than it should be in the background, but that's just because I was doing that for, just demonstration purposes. But yeah, and then like I said, with a little dodge and burning, which I'll show in some other videos, this will look good. This is just to show you the proper way to cut somebody out to where it's actually a believable, nice, clean cutout with really, you don't have very much. Here I've got a little bit of black, so I'd go in and I would clean that up. See, this is why you go inside of the edge. I didn't go inside enough right there, and I should have. But because I did, you know, we don't have any funny, like right here, we don't have any funny stuff out here, and it doesn't look like it's been faked. It just looks like this guy's in the sun. And then when you dodge and burn, that's when it really starts to come to life. So we just really wanted a clean cutout. I think we got it. So hopefully that helps you guys. Good luck, and check out the other tutorials. Don't forget, you can always subscribe to get the master package, which is the premium, to unlock everything, and that gives you everything that we've got. I'm constantly adding new tutorials. We're constantly looking for new tutorials to add. So as long as this thing keeps going, you guys will always get those tutorials once you're a premium member. All right, hope that helped.